Folks, thanks for joining us today. My name's John Dubas with Premier Marketing. We'll be spending the next hour or so discussing some of the generalities and the intricacies of the Medicare system that we use as part of a computer software program enabling folks to do a multitude of things in the Medicare market. Today's presentation is being recorded, and that recording, the link to that recording, will be sent to everyone who raised their hands in interest to today's presentation, but will also be posted on our website at premiersmi.com and on our YouTube channel. A bit of housekeeping to start. You'll notice that the system has an area for both questions and chat. We ask that you use the questions section. We find that many times we answer the vast majority of the questions throughout the course of the presentation, but we want to make certain that we have any of your inquiries satisfied as much as possible by the end of today. And if not, we'll do research and make certain that you have that information. As a bit of a level set as well to start, let's give you a little bit of additional background on Premier Marketing. We are a national marketing organization founded in 1968 that's part of the Integrity Marketing Platform with offices across the country. We act as an insurance services wholesaler working with independent insurance agents such as yourself, and we do so through contracts that are at the highest possible commission levels with recruiting contracts available to those who qualify. It's a full portfolio of products. Many of them fall into the purview of today's presentation, where you have the basics in Medicare, the programs that cover what Medicare doesn't, including Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement plans, the standalone Part D prescription drug programs, all of which are handled neatly in the MedicareCENTER program, along with a full portfolio of life insurance and annuity products, final expense life insurance, pre-need plans, long and short-term care programs, disability income plans, and ancillary benefits such as dental, vision, and hearing, critical illness, cancer, hospital indemnity, accident, and even a telehealth benefit. Many of those ancillary benefits are also part of MedicareCENTER, and we'll see that in just a bit. That Medicare Advantage portfolio has all the national carriers and many of the strong regionals that can make a difference for you in your market. And we also carry that same philosophy over into the standalone prescription drug plans, where all those national carriers are there for your use through our organization, should you choose to do so. The Medicare Supplements, a very large portfolio of products, handled ably by one of the sections in today's discussion. And we have the national leaders in each of the categories of ancillary products, where they're there for you to cover additional needs for your prospects and clients, create additional marketing opportunities, and of course, additional revenue streams for you and your agency. When we look at the Medicare market overall, we all know how the baby boomers are raging into Medicare. One every 10 seconds, 10,000 plus a day. That's the silver tsunami, the aging of the baby boomers, one every 10 seconds. But if you look at it based on just age, you're missing a bit of that demographic in the fact that there are a increasing number of people who are working past the age of 65 and not accessing all their Medicare benefits when they're first eligible. But it's made up for that by that 15% of the Medicare population that are actually accessing those benefits because of disability. When you look at that market overall, having multiple chronic conditions, as 2/3 of the population does, and different challenges with income and assets, we see why we need to have assistance programs in place that cover all of the choices that an individual on Medicare has, because they have multiple choices. They don't have to do anything. They can even decline Part D or Part B if they choose to. Very few do, thankfully. Some will pick up a Part D standalone program just to cover drug costs. Some will go with a standardized, modernized Medigap policy to cover the shortfall in basic coverages. And then an increasing number of folks are taking advantage of the Medicare Advantage programs, no pun intended, that also known as Part C, where you got kind of a all-in-one scenario for an individual. The software packages we discussed today cover each of the choices that are available to them and enable you to handle your prospects and clients in the delivery of information in the manner in which they choose to receive it. What we're finding when people are accessing Medicare initially, be it through an agent or late to Medicare or whatever it happens to be, we see a pretty even split between Medicare Advantage and Med Sup plans. And then a portion of folks that still show up as original Medicare, it might be dual beneficiaries, Medi-Medis, or people who have retirement programs, people who are accessing care through VA, a number of other ways of doing it, but it does have a portion of the population that has chosen to do nothing additional with their coverages. So in order to handle that population, we're going to get you an acronym guide that can really help explain all those MOUSEs that pop up and what it means. And it really makes a difference in displaying your knowledge in the area. It's a link that will come to you as part of the follow-up. And then, of course, it helps us deal with the different election periods. It seems like we just finished with OEP and folks are already starting to talk about 2022. Since we're not quite halfway through the year, we want to make certain that we take advantage of all the special election periods that are out there. And these are important because they're how you use an election vehicle, an enrollment vehicle. And you have a ton of these that are standardized. The majority of people on Medicare qualify for a SEP one way or another because we have the weather and other means dogpiling upon the population that can create a special election period. And we want to make certain that we handle those throughout the year in a very efficient yet complete and compliant process. And these systems can really help do that because otherwise, the majority of folks aren't looking at their coverages or comparing them annually, I should say. According to Kaiser Family Foundation, 57% don't. And it includes a number of the folks that really need that review more than some of the others. Folks that are older, fair or poor health, lower income, lower education levels. These folks really need our assistance, and you'll see where the systems in the Medicare Center can help deliver upon that knowledge for them, because even when they do receive information, they have some trouble understanding it. Talk about job security for an independent insurance agent. There you go. And it's important because even the information that's out there for the general public on the Pathfinder, or Plan Finder, I should say, on the Medicare.gov website, they're not using that, or some of the simple information that's put out there in very good fashion. I mean, it's nice production from CMS about those choices. And if you go in and look at some of these different videos, you'll see they don't have a lot of watches necessarily. And so we need to deliver on that information. That includes in the Medicare supplement arena, what supplements an individual is eligible for or not because of the macro legislation, the Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015 that just came into play 5 years later last year. So some different things we want to make certain that they know, and depending upon when they became first eligible on Medicare, what plans are there at their disposal. So let's go through and look at this, and the fact that, oh boy, going a little crazy there. If we're able to deliver upon this in person or virtually, we see a number of people now that the regulations have backed off a little bit, that people that are dying to get out there. There are folks that won't. And so we want to make certain the systems can handle a person however they want the information delivered. And we're seeing a lot of folks that are as agents that are going to stay virtual. Some will be a hybrid split, and some will go back to the older ways where a lot of it is handled face-to-face across the table. When we look at the virtual world, particularly pertinent for today's discussion, we see that a number of these people over the last year, 16 months or so, have been becoming increasingly, as it's mentioned here, digitally savvy. And a lot of that is because, hey, they're being trained to do so. We're all being trained to do so. A lot of the physicians are still only doing virtual appointments. I've got a physician I've seen 9 times over the last year, never seen him face to face, all over a smartphone. You see that same sort of outreach being done not only by physicians, be they primary care specialists, but also by hospitals, by dentists, heck, even their faith-based organizations with the services there. Many of them are still online. And so we want to make certain that we have systems that can access the information we need, deliver it to the folks we visit with in a plain and simple manner, and do so compliantly. And that's what we'll find as we go through and we discuss using the Medicare Center, not only to quote and sell, but to do a multitude of other things as well. We talked about all the details right in the first part of it. You'd have a lot of lack of white space in that type of outreach. So We want to do everything we can to maximize your most valuable resource, which is your time. And that's something that is precious each and every day, but during the annual election period, where some of the marketing activity, of course, picks up a great deal, we want to make certain that you're maximizing the value of that resource and that we are doing things we need to take care of all of the different ways that we're being pulled when we market a program, whatever it happens to be. But in our insurance world, particularly because of some of the regulations that we have and the other things that come into play, we want to address many of these as much as possible through a system of a delivery of information. And that's what we have. And that's why Medicare Center came about. It was built to help agents and do some things where it can make you as efficient as possible, where you can manage your book of business. You can quote those individuals on a number of programs, and then, of course, enroll them into the plans that can make a difference for them in their lives. So let's look at one of the basics that come as the part of the Medicare Center. And a lot of folks don't really realize it, or we don't nearly talk about it nearly as much. And that's the client relationship management system that comes as part of the program as well, and enables you to take care of your clients through a system that allows you to track them if they've enrolled or not using whatever system. And you can create a new client in this database with just an email or a phone number. It's a great way to deliver on plan communications and all the next steps that are necessary for an individual to exercise their right to make a choice as to their health care, be it during the annual election period or any time throughout the year. It's accessible through an all-in-one universal login program that has a multitude of different programs within it. And we want to make certain that this is as easy of a system to operate and use as possible. And we really feel that we've succeeded in that. One of the other sections that don't get talked about nearly as much either is the Learning Center. And this is where a repository of information is made available to you. And we'll go through that in greater detail in just a little bit too. Two of the platforms that you'll notice right away that come in as available under this universal login apply to access for MA and PDP programs specifically, and that's the Medicare App and that's the Medicare Link app, powered by two of the largest and strongest programs that are out there, Connecture and Sunfire. And so you have choices within the system as to which system you're more comfortable using and that you are taking advantage of all the different pieces that are in there. We'll see as we go through some things in detail in just a little bit why would you would choose one over the other, but they're there for you to use, and it engages in some electronic signature options. So you can obviously email folks, or you can text them, both to enroll and to do the compliance piece up front, where you're texting to get a scope of appointment from these individuals. Systems also have, one of them particularly has the blue button option, which is basically importing the use of medications off the Medicare.gov website. There's a permission process that goes through, but it takes those pieces of information out of that system, the actual use of medications by the people you're speaking with, and imports them into the system automatically. No typing, it's error-free, it's always current. You'll find some people that may use medications outside the system. That's the only thing to be aware of, but it has all that detail in there for you. And if you have done quotes on medications to any extent, you understand that many times you feel like they're being spelled in another language, whatever that language may be, whatever the translation guide is. So this can really help with spelling and making certain that we're doing the things that we need to do. The program also has, of course, the Medicare supplement quoting engines that are in there too. We're going to spend a bit of time on that in just a second, but let's look at Medicare Center as it is and do a walkthrough of the system as we talk about the particulars. When we look at Medicare Center, one of the first things obviously that you've got to do is you've got to register for the use of the system, and it's a pretty simple process. You go to MedicareCenter.gov. If you're already in there, you log in, or you don't have an account, you register. And then it is a simple process where you go through and follow 7 steps. You visit the website, you select that register button, and even if you're registered to use a prior version of Medicare Center, you'll need to register an account to use the new system. Once you complete that registration form, including your name, first name and last name, and other account details that it's asking for, it'll also ask for your NPN, your national producer number. This coordinates your activity with all the different carriers that are associated with the system. And of course, it's going to ask you for a means to communicate with you, entering your own email address. And it doesn't have to be an email address you've used in the past. You can use different addresses in there now too. They're going to ask you to be secure. So you're going to have to create a password. It's at least 8 characters long and includes at least 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, 1 number, and 1 symbol. There's an example there for you to use. A lot of folks will do a number of different things to create a password and then remember it. Once you click submit on that, it's going to send a confirmation email to you, to the email address that you've provided. And it's important beyond words that you open that confirmation email and you complete the registration, because up to that point in time, all you've done is entered in information. And we want to make certain that you click on that link, and you'll note that it comes from servicefromintegritymarketing.com. So as an agent affiliated with one of the Integrity Platform partners, or hopefully with Premier itself, it won't be coming from any of those organizations that offer the contracts themselves. It comes from our backup system, our servicetointegritymarketing.com. So you're going to want to click on that link and remember the address it's coming from. One of the things you'll want to do right off the bat, of course, is make that an acceptable email, because otherwise, you know how it works. A whole bunch of things go into your spam filter. It's a trusted address, and it's not one of those that make you go, boy, what did I buy on Amazon? Nope. This is the real deal on how you register your account. So when you look at the home page overall on the Medicare Center, you've got a bunch of different tools that are right there on that home page. You've got the access to the Medicare App and Medicare Link. This connects your and Sunfire portals. It also has a link in there for the CSG quoting tool that we've talked about a lot, and that we have a number of recordings out already on CSG. And then you have access, of course, to the client relationship management system, the CRM that's in there. That's important, particularly when you start to write business through the system, because it's how you can track where it is through the system itself. And instead of going to a whole number of different carrier websites, not that you can't, but it's there for you. You've got, of course, the all-important boom, hit home. It'll take you to the front screen all the time. There's also a link in there to take you to the Learning Center that we talked a wee bit about, that we will in a little greater detail in just a moment. And then, of course, it's a way for you to update your account and make certain that everything in there is correct for you, to make certain that you're receiving the communications you need that are generated by the system by your use of it. It's also a way that you can ask to get a support on the system itself electronically in that fashion. If you go through the system and you see that, oh boy, there's some things I need to do to correct the information I input in the initial portion of my activity on the site when I was registering, this is where you go. You click on your name to edit that account, and it will do some different things that will pop up for you. Your name appears in the upper right-hand corner to update the information. You're going to click Edit Account. The Medicare Center support team is there by phone or email, so it's a great way for you to have those numbers available right away. Keep in mind, you don't have to hustle to get this. This is a very large presentation. It's one of the reasons I'm going quickly, but it is a way for you to make certain that you have the support that you need for the use of this program. Excuse me, a little frog in the throat I had to address there. But it gives you the options to make certain that you have the detail in there, so you can have multiple ways of being having the information in there correctly. When you look at the Learning Center, one of the things that we talked about briefly, that's one of the overlooked assets within the system itself. You go into the upper right-hand corner, click on the Learning Center. It gives you an opportunity to pull a number of resources out there. When we do our Medicare, like this past year, Medicare 2020 Live, which was a virtual event, we have another one coming up toward the end of this month. But you have all this detail, then all that additional information that's developed for your use to help you in your pursuit of growing your book of business, helping more people. It has the different sales tips that are in there, a Medicare phone guide, tips for electronic enrollment, a guide to handle objections. And for some of us that have been around for a long, long time, we're like, oh man, I've seen all that stuff a million times. Well, it doesn't hurt to review. And I got to tell you, there's a quote by Henry Ford. If people had asked me and I would do what they wanted, I would have bred a faster horse. We want to make certain that we don't get passed by some of the additional information that's there, because this also includes our tech guides for the system. The Medicare App technical guide, Connecture, the Medicare Link technical guide, Sunfire, MedicareCENTER technical guide, the overall system itself, and the Medicare Sup technical guide, the CSG powered material. It also has different material in there from different carriers. A couple of examples here of pieces from Humana on one of the Medicare supplements being offered and how to work that remotely. That same information can be taken with the generalities and applied for about any Medicare supplement. Some of them are easier to do electronically, obviously, but those are in the Learning Center. Most people don't even think of it. You get some different pieces in there by other carriers too, by the CVS Ascendo program, MedSup, Humana Achieve, and then different pieces from Guarantee Trust Life from GTL that's in there. And even though the system itself doesn't concentrate on other areas of enrollment outside of the Medicare basic programs and some of the ancillary programs there, you'll also have information in there about marketing life insurance over the phone and adding final expense to your portfolio, because they're natural adjunct products to a lot of what we talk about with all the people that we visit with each and every day. So it's going to lay out some different details in there for you with some different pieces that can be really, really helpful for you and give you an opportunity to learn more or review or just work through and realize that, hey, I hit a bump here. Oh, here's a guide. This helps me learn how the system actually works. And so let's do some of these things to become more aware of how to make it work for me. When we look at client management within this system, another section that's overlooked in the use of MedicareCENTER and Medicases, this CRM is that button to the right that enables us to go in and get particular details about the folks we're visiting with. Remember earlier in the presentation, we talked about how you can add a prospect or client simply by entering in their phone number or their email address to start the record. Obviously, you want to fill in as much as possible on that individual so the system is as useful as possible. And you know, the old saying, with knowledge is power. Well, information here enables you to do that. And you can do that on a one-off. If you got a book of business, you can actually upload the entire book into the system without having to do it manually. And then as you go in and discuss things with your clients, you obviously want to add additional detail on those folks so you can handle them correctly. But this then is a repository of the information that gives you detail as to year-to-year reviews. Keep in mind, the people in the system don't have to be just clients. It can be prospects. It can be those folks that you visited with that, oh, missed that one. They made a different choice and it wasn't with me. It gives you then the right to work through the system and revisit, as long as you've got that permission to contact piece, and it then links you to the different enrollment tools within the system itself. A whole lot of folks that work the Medicare Advantage or the Medicare arena overall, we find in many circumstances you fall to a Medicare supplement agent, perhaps with a standalone prescription drug program. A lot of MedSup agents just do MedSup. And then you have a lot of folks on the other end of the spectrum that, hey, I'm an MA guy. Why would you pay for something that you don't have to? It integrates everything in there. Well, there are advantages across the board. And so you have a hybrid agent as well that does both. And when you look at it, A lot of choices are based out of our wallet and our use of the monies that come out of it, our purse, whatever it happens to be. And so many people want to make certain they have choices across the spectrum. Remember earlier in the presentation, we talked about the different choices that an individual has. And this gives you the opportunity to work across the board. But when we access MA and PDP information, remember you've got two different systems in there that you can use. The Medicare App system, which is powered by Connecture, with the blue button technology that's going to import the drugs, and then the Sunfire Matrix system, which is the Medicare Link system. It gives you an option to look at specific programs or show all the plans that are out there as well. And both systems are 100% compliant. The lead plan sponsors for these programs, in order to offer such a package, well, that gives that insurance carrier scrutiny of the system itself and making certain that everything we do within it is within compliance regulations. And so not only the information that we reach out and get back from these individuals, but keep in mind these systems save this information. We want to make certain that it's safe for both ourselves and for the people we deal with on the whole identity theft. If you watch the commercials on TV, one every 30 seconds, yowza. It also handles, however, that important function where the scope of appointment, well, it has to be procured ahead of time. Both systems allow for that. Third system does too, actually. But it also then allows you to store that compliantly for that 10-year period. That comes as a regulation of our business. And you have to do that if you sell them or not. But if you think about it, having all that information in there, once again, knowledge is power. It gives you the information to go back and visit with those folks. Perhaps they qualify for a special election period. Sometimes they don't, but it gives you then an opportunity to go through and talk to them about other ancillary programs as well. And we'll show you that in just a second. This is some of the data of the carriers that are available within the system. And it's important to note that not all systems are created equal when we talk about the carriers that are part of them. And it's interesting to note, we recently brought on another carrier that is based in Texas, and they, in order to become part of the platform and utilize it as they need to in these circumstances, it is a system where these different software packages have to approve that carrier on a one-off basis. And it takes time sometimes, plain and simple. That carrier coming on will have access to the Medicare App, the Connecture program, and the CSG system, but where they're at with the approval process in the Medicare Link arena, well, it probably won't be available till 2022. So you have different hoops they have to jump through. That is by no means a complete list. That's an overview of some of the systems or carriers that are in the system. So you have different things that come into play. And that might be the predicating factor, is that, wow, which system do I use? Well, you got to make certain the carrier's in there, that's for certain. So this gives you that opportunity to do that and make some of the choices that are there for you. Taking a deeper dive, looking at the Medicare App system, this is the one powered by Connecture. It gives you then the opportunity to go in there, and if you're having challenges with that system, you have connections within it to get you an answer to your challenge that you may have in any system. The vast majority of folks don't have any hiccups, but as soon as I say that, then I'm the one hiccuping all the way out the door, in a manner of speaking. We want to make certain that we have that contact information if we run across the challenge. I tell you, the thousands of times this system has already been used by agents in the past in different incarnations. You don't see it too often, but it's there for you. And we want to make certain too that you realize that this system also comes with the lovely Pearl. So we're not talking about the lady with the price tag on her hat that sings in the Grand, or used to sing in the Grand Ole Opry, God bless her soul. This is a personal URL that's a unique and personalized landing page created specifically for you. Each individual in the system has their pieces that are on there, and it gives you then the opportunity to go in and direct people to that site. So you can put a link on your communications that you send out. You can put a little search engine optimization activity out there in order to make certain people are aware of it. And it's a way then that you can utilize the system, create a profile to capture your agent or your client's demographic information, and this information will then be automatically put into an enrollment form. All of the information except for the Medicare number, the MBI number. No longer, of course, the Social Security number in a letter, but it is a system then that has you then another layer of basic control over access. And it gives you then the opportunity to go in and do some of the additional things you need to do to complete that portfolio. It's going to ask as well to make certain that the information you have carries over from year to year. It gives you the opportunity to put notes in the system, create tasks, make certain that you have all the data in there as to how that person's being affected and how they're handling their circumstances now. So the current plan, the information, and of course, a way to keep notes in the systems to help you remember what is going on with that individual. It then also gives you that means of sending and collecting the scope of appointment, where the system will tell you, is there an SOA in the system? If not, obviously you can't go into detail on the programs until you have that information. And you can get it by emailing or texting that individual. And it will then be in the system for your use and protect you and be protected as well to store it in there for you for that 10-year period. Remember, if you're using text, there are rates that may apply for the individual. A whole bunch of us with unlimited data, well, doesn't bother us, but some of the folks that may have that limited data plans, we want to make certain that they're aware of the text making some demands upon the data that's in there. It then sends that scope of appointment to your prospect or clients. And you got two different ways that it does it. You can do it, obviously through the email process or through the text process to collect it. Once they get it, it's going to ask them to click the box with approval as to what programs you can discuss. And keep in mind, there are folks out there that have some challenges with, boy, why do I need a scope of appointment? This is a legislation brought upon by people that are out there doing the wrong things. We want to protect ourselves from that. And if we'd have done a better job of policing ourselves a number of years ago, some of the MIPA regulations wouldn't be there, plain and simple. But a scope is also a great sales tool because it sets up conversations about products. So obviously you're going to want to lay all that information out there so you have the permission to speak of it. Once someone is in a Medicare Advantage or PDP program and you are not discussing that in the future, you don't necessarily have to have a fresh scope to talk about ancillary products, other programs, but you want to make certain that they're acknowledging the scope, no pun intended, of the conversation you have during that presentation. Once the client completes the form, it's going to generate an automatic reply, kick it back to you, and give them, your prospect or client, the knowledge that the system worked and that the scope has been submitted, and close the browser, and they'll have you reach out and speak to them very certainly. And it's going to prepare them for what you're going to discuss. Remember those little boxes that you had to click on? Well, boy, then they're going to show up here, what you're going to talk about. And it's going to make certain that they have the information that they need for this appointment to be as successful for all involved and as accurate as possible. So obviously they're going to want to have their Medicare information, the medications they're on, and a list of the folks that are providing services for them in the system. And keep in mind that talks about current physicians along with their phone numbers. Well, keep in mind, sometimes it goes beyond doctors. There are people out there that have attachments to hospitals, obviously. Those folks that have a durable medical equipment supplier, folks bringing them oxygen, or they have a relationship because of a walker or some other device, and also any home health agencies that are coming to play. We want to have that information available so we can be as thorough as possible. It then sends a notification to you that that scope has been completed and a link that will take you to that scope so you can see exactly what has been agreed upon as to the breadth of your conversation during your meeting. It then asks something additional of you, that you acknowledge the scope of appointment, that you have seen it, and that you are accessing that information. Why? Well, keep in mind that's one of the things that um, lets you know what you can talk about during that course of that conversation. And remember, a lot of us, if we work final expense or long-term care or some other area that are areas of great need for our individuals, that may predicate the need for an additional appointment, because we're talking about health products during the breadth of a scope and not some of the other programs. Some of the things that they're going to ask for you to do to complete the scope is make certain that you are documenting where you got the lead, basically. It's going to talk about the plans that are being represented. A lot of that will be captured for you if you're doing a comparison and sending it to them. It's going to date that appointment and make certain that you acknowledge that the information in there is correct. You're going to electronically sign it and submit it so the system is in there. In Medicare App, the signature is created with a touchpad or drawing on it. You can't upload a PNG system into it. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of. You also then will get notifications, boy, the scope's finally done. Seemed like a lot of work there. It's a lot of slides anyway, John. Well, we're going through it point by point. It's going to make certain that you see that it's acknowledged and then it's in there and complete. And then, hey, you're going to see that information in green. It's green to go. And you have an option to view or download the scope if it's necessary. So once it's done, it's going to be attached to your client profile. And here's an example of how it looks. And it then gives you options you follow in order to create a successful collection of information and a successful presentation. So keep in mind, one of the things that you find, particularly in Medicare Advantage and PDP programs, because of the regulations that are there, is, did you cover this topic? If you ever have a challenge with a what we used to call back in the old days, the carrier I worked with, an STI, a sales training incident. Where'd that information come from? Well, you're documenting it, and it is giving you then a system to follow to make certain you cover some of the things you need to cover as part of this system. So as you get started, this is the section that allows the client to denote if there's any extra help that's received due to their health or income. So low income subsidy, the extra help programs. Are there MSPs, Medicare savings plans involved? Are they receiving additional assistance from family members or whatever? Where is the income coming from? And this is very important because it makes certain that the folks then are looking at all the plans that might be some of their best choices. So the Getting Started program gives you some of that background information in there. And then it's going to ask about how they feel about their health. Keep in mind, these programs are not underwritten. Medicare Advantage and PDP programs cannot be underwritten. There's cherry picking regulations out there. We're asking some things about health circumstances. So the folks that are accessing benefits more than the others and are moving toward, let's say, the coverage gap, the donut hole that's being closed supposedly, or making certain that other coverages within the different health plans best fit their circumstances. So we want to make certain if that person has a history of going into the hospital repeatedly, that we're looking to address that major expense with many of these programs. It also gives us then the opportunity to handle the all-important drug coverage, making certain that the prescriptions that are in there. And you'll note in this system, it reminds you a lot of the Medicare Plan Finder. Well, until about a year or so ago, Connecture was the company that powered the Medicare site. They changed vendors recently, and that's some of the challenges that resulted on the Plan Finder that they're still dealing with today. It has those drop-down boxes, so If we haven't imported a list, we can type in the first few letters. It's going to give us some possibilities with different strengths and enable us to correctly identify the medications that come into play. So some neat pieces that can make our job easier with intuitive knowledge through the system itself. And of course, here is also where you can make use of the blue button fashion. What the heck is a blue button, John? It's a transfer of information from the Medicare.gov website, and pardon me, a typo there, missed it. That enables us to draw that information based out of the claims history, basically, of that individual and the medications they're taking. Transferring it over automatically. Obviously, you've got to have permission to do so. That's another 10 or 15 minute presentation. We're not going to cover today with the blue button itself, but it's only to transfer the medications that they are currently utilizing. It also gives us an opportunity to add to the preferences on the pharmacies that they're accessing. This is important because many of the plans will have preferred pharmacies, and that can affect what that individual is paying for on the different plans through the different providers of medications that are out there. And gee, there's a ton of them. You don't normally see a lot of this variance between cost within the same chain. And as soon as I say that, it'll go, actually, you can see some variances. So we want to make certain we're not only identifying the pharmacy itself, but the location. It defaults to within 3 miles of the client's address. That doesn't necessarily mean those are the pharmacies they're using, but it gives you then the opportunity to make certain that your folks realize the possibilities they have. They probably do anyway. They're driving past them all the time, but they're there. There may be a reason why, hey, I go to this particular pharmacy because the staff is really nice to me. They're really good to me. They treat me well, whatever it happens to be. But it gives you then the opportunity you need to identify that pharmacy because it can skew the pricing. You can change it later in the system, obviously, but it's there for you to use. You then have a number of plan options that come into play. You can toggle to see all the plans, even if you are not ready to sell. And what we've seen in the past is a number of folks that will have questions as to, well, gee, I want to show them everything that's out there. Congratulations, you're now a social worker. If you're not ready to sell, you're giving the information to go someplace else. There are times we need to do that, but we can also make certain that as we select plans, we're able to generate a side-by-side comparison of up to 3 plans that can be sent to that client. So they're going to see the options that are available to them through all the plan options or sorting some of the particular pieces that you're looking at. You're able then to filter by different criteria that's important to the individual. And then you can double click on it to make certain that it's one of the plans that are being illustrated and sent to your prospect or client. When you do that compare plan option, it's going to lay them out side by side, much as what you see on Plan Finder on Medicare.gov, and give them the information that highlights the differences between the plan options. Because let's be honest, in a lot of cases, it's not the benefits themselves that are going to differentiate for some of the individuals. Some of them like the brand recognition. Oh, I trust this company. That's one of the things you need to do when you make a decision is trust who you're dealing with, obviously. But it does give other different pieces of information in there that you can use to help determine what might be best plan choice. And that includes sending that to them then once you've identified, well, gee, we've talked about doctors, we've talked about hospitals, we've talked about drugs, we talked about what you're using now. Let's take a peek at this and let's authorize it so we're able then to discuss it compliantly. And for us, it also stores that in our system then too and tells you that the quote was sent successfully. You can add a personal note in the email address as well. Obviously, you need to do that. You don't want to necessarily send something out there where people are going, ooh, where'd this come from? It's talking about things that I need to do, but we want to make certain that it's coming from the right source and they're authorizing the use of it. You got two different ways of doing that as well. You get a couple of emails that come out. It enables then the prospect or client to view the quotes. And then, of course, it gives you the authorization code for that particular comparison. That code only expires when a new quote is sent. So if you go through them and the person says, well, yeah, we talked about these three, but can you compare? I don't want this one. Can you send me out one with a new carrier? And so to create a new authorization process. That then is a necessary component for your prospect or client to use that authorization code because they are acknowledging the information that you've sent them. It also gives you then the time that you go through and help the client make a decision. You're reviewing the different details that are in there. They make a decision. You're able then to select the plan of choice by adding to the cart. They're going to continue to apply through the process. Click here to apply, and they'll see a pop-up that gives them, in certain circumstances, a redirection to the carrier site itself, so they have all the information straight from the horse's mouth. It gives you then the information to store that, or the options to store that, completing the application form. The agent can do that, and then it'll give you also the notification that that information is being sent to the carrier. Once the client completes the application, it's going to transfer it into their profile, and this application will follow the same steps as a paper application, all the different questions that come into play. Sorry, I had a hacky there I had to take care of. There's a couple questions. I'll make certain that I cover them in just a moment, but we want to make certain that we roll through things. I got a number of slides yet to go. Some information that has recently come into play a couple of months ago, they've added some enhancements to the Medicare App system where it will also help autocomplete an address, so you don't have to type in a lot of that stuff. It's pulling information off the zip codes and different pieces that are there. It's including some of the SNP plans, the special needs programs that hadn't been available in many of these systems in the past. So you have the SNPs that are available for them. So it's a chronic SNP, the D SNP, the I SNP, the institutional SNP. We don't see too many agents work with that because in most cases it's handled by captive reps and it's non-commissionable. But you have those plans that are coming in there as well, and they're expanding the enrollment PDF to help us more carefully resemble some of the applications that are out there. So some different things can come into play to help with the system itself. It also enables you to make certain that you're labeling things properly so you can find them. And this helps keep the PHI safe and secure. So it also allows you as an agent to enroll a beneficiary in the same plan without restrictions. How that is handled on a commission basis depends on the carrier, because in many circumstances, if you do that, it will not create a situation where you're going to be paid a commission. Some do, but some don't. We want you to be aware of that, and that information is all going to be stored in the system and retains that information as it was submitted with the application. So this only handles some things going back forward. The past information of use that you have in the system, it doesn't add to those, but that information will be available in the future. It also gives you the right, or pardon me, not the right, the information you need for different subsidies that might come into play. A lot of times when you work the Medicare Advantage market, some of the choices are dictated by the dollars, as I mentioned before. And that is a important question for us to cover to make certain that if there are subsidies involved, we are explaining the programs accurately, and we're protecting that business from someone that will do that if you don't. Let's look at the second system here really quickly, and I apologize because we're going to go a little over an hour. I apologize, but wanted to get you as much information as possible. The Medicare Link system, which is the Sunfire system. Some folks prefer this over the other one and vice versa, but it is also a system that gives you the opening stages. So this is how the dashboard looks to open, and gives you then the information that you need for the different components that come into play with this system. It also then makes certain that you see, hey, your agent profile is on the bottom. We want to make certain that that's accurate as well. It gives us then a way to sort through the systems. They both have ways of locating the past business that you have submitted or information that you have on file, but you can look at it by names. You look at it by dates of birth, by phone numbers, or by the disposition of the system itself. That's for folks that you already have in the system. Or of course, here's where you would create a new file. This is important because if we look at some of the things that we're doing throughout the year, disposition of that case can be very important because it gives us an opportunity to go back and ask if the situation's changed. Is there a opportunity to address their coverage programs throughout the year because of a special election period? So some things that can come into play there that can help you market year round. And it gives you then the option of when you create these new systems, this is where you enter in the information here as opposed to what you're seeing with the Medicare app system. So a different way of gathering the information as it comes into play. It then is important to note that there's no limit on the amount of prescriptions for each client's drug list. And for those of you that have been in the field for any length of time or on the phone, you discover there's a whole lot of people out there that take a whole lot of medications. I have an older sister that takes 27 a month, and she's nowhere close to a record. I remember a household I went into where the lady brought out 2 shoe boxes full of medications. She had a challenge with some outdated medication, so there's things you can come into play there. And someone starts reading off meds. How often you take that? Well, I haven't taken that in 2 or 3 years. Take that to your pharmacist and see if that might be something you need to dispose of. It then also gives you the way of putting in the information about the health of that individual, much as what we saw in the other system, to make certain that we're doing things as closely related as possible. It gives you then the link to go in and make certain that the docs are in there. Some of the systems within the carriers themselves, they have different ways of accessing their network, and sometimes the plan will allow it, sometimes the plan won't. So we want to make certain that we are doing what we need to do and that the providers are in play there. So you get a lot of the same notifications through the system that you have with the Medicare app. They ding you to remind you that, hey, you got something in there you need to read. And it gives you then an extensive frequently asked questions piece with tutorials within the system itself. So one of the reasons why we start talking about these systems now, outside of the fact that, hey, you can use them now, is the fact that you want to be familiar with these systems to make this go as smoothly as possible. And remember, a lot of why you use an electronic system, outside of course, it being accurate and storing things and doing things compliantly, is to, well, handle your most valuable asset once again, your time. And doing so with an ease of operating the system will help make that much quicker and much more easy for you to use. So it gives you the different pieces that come into play. The system also has that personal URL that's out there you can drive people to. So you can have a couple of different systems come into play. I don't know if I'd want to confuse my clients by kitting out 5 different enrollment systems. If there are 5, you have a couple here, the third possibility too, but you want to make certain that you are collecting all the information you need for this to be a system that's going to work for you. And that's the way with any of them, any of the options that you have within the system. So that Pearl, once again, that's that unique personalized landing page specifically for you. So if you have that link out there in the wild, wild world of the internet, and someone goes into the system and they enroll, you're going to get credit for it. You have then the different options within this system as well to email or text for the scope, complete it and upload it. You want to make certain that you're covering all the information on this, much as what we discussed in the other system. A little bit different way of personal code being provided for that individual to agree for the scope. And you get notification, as you do on the other one, that the uh, scope of appointment's been completed and that you can work through the system with that personal code that the client needs to complete it. And you enter that code, the client will complete it and put in the notes and send it back to you. You'll get that email notification much as you do on the other. You can view and download that PDF should you choose to do so. You have to acknowledge that scope much as you do in the other system. And we want to make certain that it's complete so we can follow through and do things compliantly with the individual that we're visiting with. It gives you then the immediate access to send that personal URL out there. And it will then tie that individual to you and your agency. It is a grand opportunity for you to do different things out in the internet to market in that fashion. So you have then opportunities that, as long as you're following the guidelines that you have with any marketing system that's out there in this portion of the Medicare space, put that info out there, and then the folks use it, and you get the credit for it. It's a great way to uh, increase your propinquity. We'll put it that way. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of agents staying virtual, because you have a lot of this detail that can be handled here. And as you're comfortable with the systems, man, it's easy to work through. You then have the opportunity to complete the quote and send the information. It'll list all the plans that are available, and then do the side-by-side comparisons that come as to the quotes that you are sending for that individual. Remember, you can't send plan detail on plans you're not ready to sell for. It will appear gray and will not be included in the information you are sending. It's going to protect both you and the individual that you're visiting with. You'll have, of course, also the tool that's in here to help you stay compliant here, where the PIN number is going to um, give your prospect or client the opportunity to acknowledge that that's the information that you visited with, and they're going to need the date of birth and the PIN to access the quote. So again, it's a side-by-side comparison. It will display all plans that are available in that zip code, and the enroll button will be visible when the agent has the appropriate permissions. What's that mean? That means you've got the certifications done for that program so it can be included. Let's look at and briefly discuss the third program that's in there, and that's the Medicare Supplement system from CSG. It's much more than that, but it is a system where you can do much the same things on quote and enroll for Medicare supplement plans. Keep in mind, a Med Sup plan doesn't require a scope of appointment, but in most cases, when you talk about Med Sups, they're going to want to talk about drug coverage as well. You need a scope for that. Plus, keep in mind that scope of appointment can set up additional discussions on other products. So it's a great way for you to then make certain that you have the detail you need for an appropriate choice in the Medicare supplement arena. And we've done numerous presentations on CSG, but there's some different pieces in here we want you to have so you can go in and utilize some of the past demonstrations and tools that we have. And since we're almost at the top of the hour, a way for us to shorten this particular webinar too. So you got the different pieces in there that can help you with the app process, a piece in there that speaks to Market Edge, which is data provided to you at no cost through our association with CSG, the dollars we pay to use that system on setting up your targets, target market. So you can go in there and pick out different areas based on the data of the people that live in there. There's a piece in there also that speaks to the plugin option you have for this. So you can have a link to your communications for MedSups as well. And we have a really cool piece in there that talks about cross-selling. We deal a lot with the Medicare product, Keep in mind those ancillary products, dental, vision, hearing plans, the hospital indemnity programs are natural adjunct sales, and there's a way for you to use this system to set that up. Hence access to another video that we've done. Some of the key takeaways you're getting with this, we're getting close to the end here, folks. Bear with me just a moment. Let's take a peek real quick and make certain that I have questions answered here on some of the material we've gone through already. And we have someone that says that the email came from accounts@MedicareCenter.com. MedicareCenter.com. Well, that's an appropriate response too. Thank you for that. I'll make certain that we adjust the presentation. Someone is looking to utilize the WellCare Ascend app on a Mac laptop. It only currently works on an iPad. Is there a way the Ascend eApp in the Medicare Center that I can use my laptop to enroll someone? That is a system that is being worked on right now, Tina. So you're right only there for you. And utilizing that MacBook can take care of it as well. Will the permission to call form be included on this site as an SOA is included? It does take care of that for you. Is there a Medicare app available as an iPad app? Yes, the system will work on an iPad as well, in addition to a laptop. You can actually even use it on a smartphone if you want to. Your eyesight's going to have to be a lot better than mine to do that. Do we need permission to put the link on our website? Deborah, by having this system and you having access to it, you have that permission for that Pearl to be placed on your website. The presentation will be sent to everyone that has raised their hand on the process. So you'll have that for you coming to you. The link will, bear with me a moment, be there for you. Keep in mind, this is a huge presentation. So it's a big one. I got to tell you, I've never had one this large here in this circumstance, but so it may not make it all the way through the presentation itself. If that does happen, we're going to chop it up and make certain that you get it so you have it in sections. Let's roll through some of the key takeaways that you have on the system itself. Remember, in the Medicare Center, once you register, you got to click on the confirmation email before proceeding. We talked about, do we have permission to do so? Well, hey, you got to be registered in order for the system to become available to you, and that's going to grant you a lot of those permissions. We want to make certain that you are aware of the carriers that are on one app or the other, and so that list is continuously updated in the system, and that's going to make a difference for many of you as to what system you're going to use. If you have some challenges with it, within the Premier organization, we've got 3 point people that handle Medicare Center questions themselves. We want to make certain that we're utilizing the resources that we have. And then, of course, we've got the backup system with the integrity people as well. We want to make certain that that profile that we're doing with the individuals is as complete as possible. And we want to make certain of that simply because that's going to make a decision, or make the decision to make a decision no longer a decision, if that made any sense. You have all the detail in there. It's going to lay out the programs that may be their best choices. We want to make certain that we realize too that the system utilizes the new Medicare identification number. So you can go in there and practice with a fake number in there. And remember that the new MBI, I say that, and it's a couple years old now, but it makes use of 9 numbers, all the letters except the 6. And there are certain segments within that are one or the other. They're always numbers, or they're always letters, or they're a combination. Currently, the emails that are generated come from the do not reply email address. If an email is missing, you got to look up your client, have the client look you up in spam to make certain that they're receiving the information and not being caught by that process. So you are a safe link for them too. We want to make certain that you constantly look at your material, because if you change an email address, you're going to have, gee, where's the acknowledgments coming from? How are you using the system? We want to make certain that your information is current in there as well. And you, of course, have then those options of emailing or texting and uploading the scope. So you can actually upload scopes into the system as well. You can shop by doc. You can shop with that blue button. We want to make certain that you have all that detail in there for you to use. Pardon me. We've got a couple of questions that popped up here in the meantime. PowerPoint and the audio. Yeah, the audio is going to make it to you for certain, as I mentioned, because of the size of the presentation. We may have to cut that up. We're going to try it up front. So you look at a system like this, why would you use it? One, it's going to make certain that you're compliant. The systems are certified compliant by our lead plan sponsor, which in this case is United Healthcare. It's going to give you the option to use all that detail that we've discussed in a singular sign-on. So you don't have to do multiple logins for multiple systems. It has that CRM, that client relationship management system in there for you to use. And it is something that can be a key component in your marketing plan all year long. And it gives you access to that learning center with those materials that are in there. I gotta tell you, I didn't feel as old, or I don't feel as old as I probably am sometimes, but the information that's in there can refresh things that you've already gone through, or hey, it might be a new approach that you can use on certain things to drive up your close ratio, whatever it happens to be. Keep in mind that personal URL can be so valuable in how you market. It enables you to send people to that site, have it out there for folks to use, and do some things electronically when it comes to signatures, on the scope or the enrollment itself with that e-sign option. You can shop by the doctor, drug, or pharmacy. Those are some of the major turning points in a lot of people's decisions. An important piece that comes in here as an improvement on the 2022 version versus 2021 is, hey, those health risk assessments that carriers ask us to do, and they pay us anywhere from 40 to 60 bucks to do it. You're now going to be able to do it right through this system. In the past, you'd do a comparison, and then you'd go to the lean system with United or Ascend with Aetna or a number of the other carriers and have to do the enrollment on their site in order to get paid that stipend. Well, it's going to be in this system for you to use, so you don't have to dance around with it. You've got experts that can help you should challenges come up with the system. But one of the things we haven't mentioned at all is the fact that this system is available without cost to any agent contracted with an integrity partner. So even if you've got like 3-year carriers with Premier, you've got one with, say, Niceloss and Fleming, since they helped me with this portion of the presentation, let's give them a plug. They've got a carrier in there, and we've got carriers in there, and whomever else does within our platform, you're going to have access to all of them as long as you have the contract with one or the other. All of it available to you without cost. Some of the things you're going to get by using us, we're going to check questions real quick again. I apologize. Can I link two people in the CRM, such as husband and spouse? There is a way to link that, and I got to tell you what, I should have anticipated that question. Donald, I'm going to have to make certain that I have the correct answer for that, because I'm certain to do it. How I can illustrate that here and now, I don't know. I got to get that to you. Can you export from the CRM so you can follow up and do retention emails, etc.? Yes, you can. And that's a piece that's in there. That's one of the reasons why we talk about making certain that we have all the detail in there to do so accurately and compliantly. For those of you that are contracted with us, or for those of you that are looking for additional contracts, we do have an electronic system that can help you do that. If your handwriting's like mine, boy, you need to do things electronically. This gives you an opportunity to create an agent profile within the system and contract with multiple carriers electronically. Many times with the MA carriers, their electronic systems directly can be a little quicker for you. So we want to make certain that we're doing it properly for you. We do make discounted errors and admissions coverage available to you as a qualified agent. What makes you a qualified agent? You got a contract with us, but this is a program you own. So it's not like being added to a blanket E&O policy for one program or another. and then you worry about the rest. This covers the requirement you have with most insurance companies now with the E&O at certain levels, and it's there for you at a solid discounted price, and you can use it wherever you go with whomever you contract. We do have an arrangement with WebCE as well to make certain that you have the continuing education you need to keep your license in place, and a program for you to do a modified guarantee issue DI program on yourself on which you're paid commission, so you can add to your own benefit package. Much as where today's presentation is being recorded, past presentations are available for you now on our website or on our YouTube channel. These cover not only systems like today, different carriers on different programs, but also different ways to market. There's a lot of talk now about retail marketing. We recently did a webinar on Walmart and some of the opportunities that you have there and some of the changes that are coming about. Those are posted on our site, and we're doing regular updates on them. I'm due to record a additional update later today. Hopefully have that available for you tomorrow because we have additional information from some of the carrier opportunities moving forward. Obviously, we've talked about this now for a little over an hour. Medicare Center is available to you without cost with all those advantages that we've discussed there for you. This is the CSG component within that system, the different pieces that are available to you through our organization. Different organizations may have different components in there. And keep in mind that cross-selling drives up your persistency, your customer retention. Multiple products in a house drive that up. They don't have to be with the same carrier. They just have to be with the same agent, you. So ask some of those questions. We have a spot on our website as well that collates all the incentives that you have for the different programs that are out there. Keep in mind Medicare Advantage and MA plans. Hey, got a raise. Did you see that notification that just came out this last week? Well, this week. So we got a bump in the commissions on those programs, but those max are set by the government. Most of the carriers offer them at that max. So there's not additional incentives there, but the ancillary products have trips and incentives. Those help you qualify for our incentive programs as well. A great way to make certain that you're getting everything you deserve by your prospecting and selling activity. We do make available different lead programs for you as well, a custom list, contact list. You can't cold call for MA or PDP, but you can for a whole bunch of other systems and products that are out there. A lot of folks are using a dental program, an increasing number, I should say, for that T65 market, because you see a price increase on many of the dental programs from 64 to 65. That's available to you at limited or no cost. You have different community-based programs that are set up in there too. I talked about our information we've kicked out on retail marketing. We have similar opportunities out there for you to examine, opportunities within the faith-based organizations in a community, and marketing to and through providers. Some of these carriers do generate prospects for you as well. If you work in a symbiotic relationship with an MA carrier, many of them are going to take care of you year round. So there are different things that come into play. Keep in mind, what's a lead? Well, in some cases here, it may be what I refer to as a Lazarus lead. Some people have tried them, they haven't contacted them, well, they got to know. You're a fresh perspective. We do have internet lead programs and direct mail support, and then a cool referral system that's out there for you as well. Send you a link to that recording. When we talk about the mail program, it's a discount on mail. Two different systems here, or two different ways of qualifying. You can do both, where you're deeply discounting the cost of direct mail in the health arena and in final expense. So if you do business in both areas, you can get a deep discount on a 1,000-piece mail drop twice a month. We do use certain lead vendors, preferred lead vendors, simply because it gives us the opportunity to vet the information they're sending out to help you stay in compliance. And they each have different CRMs within their systems as well, so you can follow up with the leads that come into it, and those, of course, you can put in the MedicareCENTER program, so you can follow up with them as well. We do also have a couple of programs that allow you to not only do a complete mailing by yourself, but also purchase responses. Two different pieces that come into play. These are never before contacted leads, so they're clean, they're fresh, maybe a day or two older than controlling your own mail simply because you get those the day they came in. These can be a little older than that. That internet lead program, well, it's through Facebook, one for final expense and one for Medicare. Systems particulars there will be sent to you if you have interest. And then, of course, the best lead system of all, which is the referral system, to make certain that we are maximizing our potential out of every lead that we have. Some really neat hints and tips in there. We go through all this and going 15 minutes long simply because we wanted to make certain that we have the details that you need to be successful in your chosen avocation. And we do so because we want your business and we're asking for it. And hey, since we talk about referrals here a few times here, you know of other agents that need these systems, have them talk to us and we can help as much as possible. This can be a key component in any personal marketing program. Registering for it is simple. It's a, excuse me, a great way for you to maximize your time, put it into your system. And as John Wayne says in that immortal movie, The Cowboys, slap a piece of bacon on a biscuit, saddle up, and let's ride because we're burning daylight. Doing things in this system now can set up your success for hectic activity coming in AEP. But as importantly, hey, it's just June. You can use these systems now in order to be as efficient, a great way for you to become increasingly familiar as to the workings of the system and that you're ready to go as additional marketing material comes available for 2022. Keep in mind, when we all first get that information, you can't do anything with it until October anyway for 2022, outside of plan your marketing moving forward. And with the experience we've all had in the pandemic, hey, that may be a larger target market than what you've seen before, or you may be an individual that's going to work both systems. Most folks do. Or you may be that face-to-face individual who uses this system to be more efficient in enrolling individuals and storing the information you need compliantly. So all that said, remember, you're going to be receiving follow-up from us. You can respond to that email and we'll make certain that your marketer has your information to reach out to you. It's also an opportunity for you to give us a call, 1-800-365-8208. If you work with a marketer within our organization, they'll hook you up. If you don't, they'll hook you up with a marketer to give you details on all the advantages you have with working with a premier marketing system. It also gives you the opportunity to go to our recently refreshed website and contact us that way as well. We want to make certain that we are handling the information you need as you need it to. So I'm going to go back through making certain that we have questions that are answered. We'll make certain that we have certain detail in there for you as well to make it as easy as possible for you to use. So folks, I congratulate you. We've gone through 145 slides in about an hour and 20 minutes. Yowza. Apologize for the length. We want to make certain that we have the detail there for you, however, and we recognize that this is an investment of your time. I thank you for that investment. You've worked with us in the past. I thank you for that association and the business that we've both received out of it. And until we're able to speak again, I'm going to wish you good selling. Thanks so very much, and we'll talk to you very soon.